Hello! Welcome to the Poetry Foundation's Reading for Young People featuring Janet Wong. My name is Alex, and I am the Building and Events Manager at the Poetry Foundation. I use he, him pronouns, and as a visual description, I'm a white cis man with black glasses and blonde hair. I'm wearing a black and gray sweater, and I'm sitting in front of a bookshelf. We would like to begin today by recognizing that the Poetry Foundation building is situated on the occupied original homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa nations, among other indigenous nations. Indigenous people continue to live here today, and Chicago is home to one of the largest urban indigenous communities in the United States. While we are meeting on a virtual platform, it remains crucial that we recognize the stolen resources and land that enable us to connect tonight. We gather recognizing that some of us are settlers on colonized land, and that this land acknowledgement is one small part of disrupting and dismantling the colonial structures in which we are living. And now, a few accessibility notes. To access live captioning, click the CC icon at the bottom of the screen. Alternatively, you can view captions in a separate window by clicking the link we will put in the chat right now. Additionally, today we have an ASL interpreter with us, who we will spotlight throughout the event. If you need any assistance, you can raise your hand and a Poetry Foundation staff member will private message you and assist you. Today's event is being recorded and it will be posted on poetryfoundation.org/video, but your camera and mic are not being recorded. We like to set an intention to create a relaxed virtual space together. So feel free to do what you need for your body and mind to be more at ease. If you need to stretch, go to the bathroom, eat a snack, jump up and down, call a friend, feel free to step away. Take a second now to make yourself 10% more comfortable. And now, I'd like to introduce our library director, Catherine Litwin, who will bring on today's reader.
Hello, my name is Catherine, and I am the library director here at the Poetry Foundation. My pronouns are she, her, and by way of a visual description, I am a white woman with curly, dark brown hair and brown eyes, and today I am wearing a striped shirt, and I am sitting in an office where there are some small works of art behind me and a shelf filled with books. Janet Wong is a graduate of Yale Law School and a former lawyer who switched careers to become a children's author. Her dramatic career change has been featured on The Oprah Winfrey Show, CNN's Paula Zahn Show, and Radical Sabbatical. She is the author of more than 30 books for teens and young adults on a wide variety of subjects, including writing and revision, You Have to Write, community inclusion, apple pie, 4th of July, peer pressure, Me and Raleigh Malou, chess, Alex and the Wednesday Chess Club, identity, A Suitcase of Seaweed and More, racism, Good Luck Gold and More, and yoga, Twist, yoga poems, and is the winner of the 2021 NCTE Award for Excellence in Poetry for Children, a lifetime achievement award that is one of the highest honors an American children's poet can receive. A frequent featured speaker at schools, libraries, and conferences, Wong has served as a member of several national committees, including the NCTE Commission on Literature and the ILA Notable Books for a Global Society Committee. Her most recent anthology, co-edited with Sylvia Vardell, is Hop to It, Poems to Get You Moving. Her most recent collection of poetry and prose is Good Luck Gold and More. You can learn more about her work at janetwong.com and pomelobooks.com. Janet's reading will be followed by a live Q&A. You can submit any questions you have for her using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please welcome Janet Wong.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Wong. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. I'm here in my, well, what I call it now is my Zoom studio. This is where I talk to kids from all over the world when they're at school or in book clubs. And I like to share stories and poems and talk about why I write what I do. Around me, you can see books. Here are books that I have written. I've actually written how many? 35 books, 21 books published the traditional way with big publishers like Simon and Schuster, and then another 14 books that I've published myself with my friend Sylvia Vardell. We started a company because we wanted to make poetry books that made it super fun and easy to teach poetry and share poetry in the classroom. So I've got some of my books here. I have my grandfather's suitcase that he brought with him. It's an old battered 1920s suitcase behind me, full of stuff. And then I have some books and a whole mess of things. My office is a mess. My Zoom studio is a mess. Well, I didn't always write poetry and present to kids. 30 years ago, I was a lawyer. I was the director of labor relations at Universal Studios Hollywood. And it was my job when I was there to negotiate 9 different union contracts, deciding how much money people would make, how many vacation days they could take. And when they did something bad, like the driver who put a snake in his boss's office, when they did something bad, they ended up in my office. And I had to fire them. I was firing about 10 people a week on average. And the sad part is it was starting not to bother me. And so one night I said to my husband, I think I'm becoming a mean person. And he said, yeah, you are. Well, I wanted to do something good with my life. I wanted to do something important. And I thought, I can't think of anything more important than working with kids. But I had been a substitute teacher. When I was working my way through Yale Law School, one of my jobs was being a substitute teacher, and being a teacher is the very hardest job I have ever had. So think about your teachers and let's give them a round of applause. Teachers do so much for us. Well, I knew I wouldn't survive in a school. I didn't yet have a child of my own, but I had a 2-year-old cousin, and it was her birthday. And so I took her to our local little teeny tiny bookstore. And next thing I knew, I had an armload of books for 2-year-olds that I wanted to buy for myself. And the idea hit me. Somebody wrote those books. Why couldn't I be one of those people? I didn't have any idea how to write a book or how to get it published, but I thought, I can go to the library. I can read books about it. I can figure it out. So I told my husband, I'm going to quit my job for a year. I'm going to write for a year. And if at the end of the year I have not sold a book, then I'll go back to being a lawyer. And he said, you know what? Why don't you do it for a year? And if you love it, if you love writing, then keep on doing it. It doesn't matter if you sell a book. I said, yeah, I'll sell a book. Well, a year and a half later, I finally sold a book. But that first year was super hard. I kept getting rejection letters. And what I was writing then were picture books, picture book manuscripts. I didn't write any poetry because starting in 4th grade, I decided I hated poetry. Yep, I hated poetry. In fairness to poetry, I don't think I knew enough poetry to hate it. What I hated was poetry homework. I hated picking poems apart, trying to find the true meaning. I hated having to memorize poems and stand up in front of the class and forget the poem. That's what I hated. Anyway, I was writing picture books. I was getting rejection letters. And it occurred to me, maybe I needed to learn how to write. And so I signed up for a class, everything you need to know to write and sell a children's book. There were 8 different authors speaking about all different kinds of writing. And right before lunch, Myra Cone Livingston stood up to speak. I had no idea who she was. Myra Cone Livingston. The name meant nothing to me. She said she was the author of 80 books of poetry, and she started reading poems, and all of a sudden, I thought I could learn something from her. I didn't want to learn poetry, but I thought I could learn something from her. And maybe if I learned about rhyme and repetition and rhythm, then I could write a picture book that would sell. So I signed up for Myra's beginning class in poetry at UCLA Extension. And every week she gave us lots of homework assignments, and I did the homework. I turned in a thick stack of poems, and each week the poems came back. Nothing. No smiley faces, no stars, no, wow, this is the next goodnight moon. Nothing. And I thought, is she even reading my work? And then about 9 weeks into the class, hundreds of poems into the class, I finally got a mark. I got a VG for this poem. I'll share it with you. Let me share my screen. It's called Waiting at the Railroad Cafe. Let me go to a slideshow and play from the current slide. All the white kids are eating. Let's go, Dad, I say. Let's get out of this place. But Dad doesn't move. He's going to prove the Asian race is equal. We stay and take our silent beating. He folds his arms across his chest, glaring at the waitresses who pass by like cattle, ready for a Western battle. They will not look. They refuse to surrender, even to my best wishing on bracelet charms. Consider this part of your education, Dad says. I wonder how long we'll be ignored like hungry ghosts of Chinese men who laid this track, never making their journeys back, but leaving milestones and signposts to follow. Why do they treat us so wrong? I wonder, don't they know we're on vacation? A drunk shouts at us and gets louder and redder in the face when we pay him no mind. I say, let's get out of this place. We're not equal. We're better, as I pulled Dad by the hand. Well, that was the first poem of mine that got any praise from Myra. And I think it's because it was the first poem that I wrote about something serious, about a serious thing that had happened to me somewhere between 8th and 9th grade. Well, before then, I thought poems are supposed to be funny, right? Fun and silly. And I wrote fun, silly poems in my homework, fun, silly poems that had nothing to do with my real life. It was only when I wrote about something serious, when I reached down to pull out this memory, that I was able to write this poem that got a little bit of praise from Myra. Well, you'll see 2 covers there. So the cover on top, the pink cover with the girl looking lovingly at her gold jewelry, is a fine painting. This is a painting that was done, let's see, who did this? By James Hostin in 1994 for the original book that was published by Macmillan. But I wanted something a little bit stronger. And so actually, when the book went out of print, books go out of print, they die. When the book went out of print, I got the rights back, and then I created this version with this girl. And I think she's pretty real looking, right? And that's what I wanted for this. But this book is just like the first book in that it has poems and lots of white space. And then I decided recently that I needed to do a little bit more. So I took the poems for this new book, Good Luck Gold and More. I took the original 42 poems, and for each poem, I wrote the story behind the story. And I put some questions for you to think about and write about if you want. And so that's the and More version that you see in the cover below, the black version with my actual Good Luck Gold jewelry. Yes, it's in here. My good luck gold jewelry that I got when I was a baby is in here. Well, after writing about waiting at the Railroad Cafe, about that experience that I had with my father when we were traveling from California up to Yellowstone, and we went in a restaurant and we did not get served, I thought, okay, well, if writing about painful, true memories is something that's going to bring poems that connect with people, maybe I should try to do more of that. So I reached deep down for another memory, and it inspired this poem, Noise. Ching Chong Chinaman, those kids over there are laughing at me. My hair, my nose, my skin. I hear the noise. Ching Chong. I won't let it in. They're pulling their lids up, down, and out to the side, making wide eyes slit thin, faking being some kind of Chinese I've never seen, chanting, Ching Chong, open your eyes, Chinese. It's only noise. Ching Chong. I won't let it in. I won't let it in. I promise myself I won't let them win. Well, for a while, maybe with the hope of the Obama years, I felt that anti-Asian racism was something of the past. But with the pandemic, at the start of the pandemic, we saw a lot of anti-Asian racism, a lot of taunting, a lot of go back to where you came from. Well, where I came from was Los Angeles. And I decided that for Good Luck Gold and more, I needed to do something to raise awareness and to make sure that people know what to do when they find themselves in the middle of those situations, not just the targets, but the bystanders, the people who are watching. And so I decided that I was going to donate 100% of the profits from this book to groups that provide bystander training and stop Asian hate. And the very first group to get my donation will be Hollaback. They have a website, ihollaback.org, and I urge you to take a look and look at the bystander training that they offer. Well, that's a pretty heavy start to this program. And poetry can be super fun. And so what I want to do for the rest of this program, what we'll do in our live Zoom, is we will take a poetry break. We'll treat it like a poetry break, where we look at the poetry suitcase, where we see what's inside. And well, there's, for instance, a big pencil. And if you pick the big pencil, then I'll share maybe when I feel scared about writing when you're feeling scared. Or maybe I'll share, you can do it right now, about taking action and making the world a better place. And it can start right in your chair with your pencil and paper. If you pick, the jewelry, then I will share the actual Good Luck Gold jewelry that I got when I was a 1-month-old baby. And I'll also share the poem that goes with it. If you pick the fly swatter, then if you pick the hand, then I will go ahead and share my poem, Ask, from Things We Do, which is a brand new alphabet anthology that has 26 different poets, including me. And it was put together by my colleague, Sylvia Vardell. And for this book, 100% of the profits are being donated to the IBI Children in Crisis Fund, which does great work all over the world to help children who need help, and to provide the conditions and the materials so that they can read. Well, some of you start your day at school with a Pledge of Allegiance, and I want to end this portion of our program, or begin the next portion of our program, with this pledge. It's my riff on the Pledge of Allegiance, and it goes like this. Let's pledge between us. Let's pledge between us to be kind and remind ourselves every morning to be respectful and honest and true. Each person looking out for the other, doing what's right, acting responsibly. in fairness for all. Well, thank you for joining me. Hang on, because I'm going to be live in Zoom in a minute, but make sure to look for my books. Take a screenshot if you're curious about what my books are, so that you can take the screenshot to your library and say, hey, do we have any of these? And now I'm going to stop the share and we can start part 2 of this program. Thanks for listening so far. And I'm really eager to hear your questions and to interact more with you and to share my suitcase. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Janet, for that amazing reading. I know it was just beautiful. To start us off, I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about your work as an anthologist. I know that's a big part of your work with poetry.
Absolutely, I will. But first, I want to thank you, Catherine. I want to thank the Poetry Foundation, Noah, for orchestrating this, and Mona Jean. Mona Jean, you are amazing. I've been watching you doing the ASL interpretation, and let's all give Mona Jean a round of applause. Well, yes, I write poems of my own for my own collections, and I also put anthologies together with my colleague Sylvia Vardell, who's a professor of children's literature at Texas Women's University. She has a great blog that I think there are tons of really, really, really good poetry blogs out there, especially children's poetry blogs that are written by poets who write for children. But poetryforchildren.blogspot.com is Sylvia's blog, and I think everybody needs to go there. So Sylvia and I put together anthologies. We have actually poems, probably about 800 poems by over 200 poets represented in our books. And it's really a who's who list of poets, poets that are the people you need to know, and the rising stars, the people who are just starting to get their work out there, but you know they're going to shoot to the top, like Renee Latulippe, who lives in Italy and does amazing videos on poetry technique. She's in our anthologies. Leslie Bullion, who writes science poetry, she's in our anthologies. And I just have a piece of good news. This one, Hop to It, Poems to Get You Moving, was just named this week a Best Book of Facts for the Kids Book Choice Awards that are organized by Every Child a Reader, the Children's Book Council. So doing anthologies is really a core part of my work, and I love it because there's so many people who need to be recognized. And I've asked poets who are attending right now to put their just where we can find their work, their poems or their books in the chat. And so please take a quick look at the chat if you can. Okay, what's another question?
Thank you, Janet. I know that I rely very heavily on your anthologies as a librarian. They're really great resources for anyone who's looking for poems on a specific topic. And so they're really, really essential. Another question that we have from Joseph is, Janet, what idea or action have you found that has begun to change Asian hate into Asian acceptance and possibly praise?
Well, that question is from Professor Joseph Pizzo, who is a middle school teacher and also teaches classes in college and is just a literacy superstar literacy volunteer. Thank you, Joe, for being here. You know, it's all about sharing the poems and getting people to say, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea that this existed. I had no idea that even just a question like, where are you from, would be hurtful. And where are you from could just be curiosity, but it reinforces the idea that we're not from here, that we don't belong here. And so that's why it's a hurtful microaggression. So I think just sharing the work is making sure that people hear the poems and hear the prose pieces and talk about them. And I want to point you all to the chat where I've asked Joe to actually put a link to I think it was 45 minutes or so podcast interview that he and I did. Maybe it was only half an hour. I don't quite remember. Time flies. But if you want to share my work, playing Joe's podcast, or if you're a teacher, offering it as extra credit to kids just to listen to it, maybe when they're walking home, would be a way to help stop Asian hate. Just getting the problem out there for people to talk about is progress. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that answer. And thank you, Joseph, for that question.
Does anyone want to know something from the suitcase? Did anybody put something in the chat?
I'm looking through the chat and I don't see one yet, but please feel free. Oh, okay, someone says they'd like to hear about the jewelry.
In the video, I have different things. I have a dog, I have a cat.
Janet, someone's asking about the jewelry.
I have a pencil. I have a whole bunch of stuff here that I'd like to share. If somebody, but we only have 2 minutes, so somebody needs to put it in the chat right away.
The jewelry. Someone is asking to see the jewelry.
Well, and I invite everyone to continue this conversation with me. You can reach out to me on Twitter. If you do Twitter, ask me questions, ask me whatever you want. Also, just go to my website, janetwong.com, and email me from there. So there's a poem called Good Luck Gold, which is in Good Luck Gold. It's the very first poem, and it goes like this. When I was a baby, 1 month old, my grandparents gave me good luck gold. A golden ring, so soft, it bends, just like a bubblegum machine ring. A golden bracelet with, a golden necklace hooked at the ends. There's the hook that you can see. A golden bracelet with coins that say, I will be rich and happy someday. I wish that gold would work real soon. I need my luck this afternoon. Well, gosh, the time has flown by. It's already 29 minutes past the hour. Do we have time for one more? Or do we need to wrap it up?
We have time for one more, and we had one person ask to hear the food, to see the food.
Oh, the food. I love the way that the only food item in here is noodles, but I love the way it was called the food because this is really the food. Ramen. Ramen solves all problems. And the poem that goes with it is Noodles, a perfect poem for a rainy day in New Jersey and my lunch. And it goes like this. Noodles for breakfast, noodles for lunch, noodles for dinner, noodles to crunch, noodles to twirl, noodles to slurp. I could eat noodles all day. Burp. So let's end with that, but continue the conversation with me on Twitter or reach out to me through my website. Catherine, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Janet. So before I let everybody go today, I have one last announcement, and that is that we have some books to give away to about 25 interested readers. So if you would like to receive a book for yourself or for a young person in your life, please email your name and address to library@poetryfoundation.org, and that's in the chat. I know I'm speaking rather quickly, so please send an email and we'll get a book out to you as soon as we can. Thank you everyone so much for coming out to our program today. We are very happy to have you. Please check out poetryfoundation.org/events for other virtual events and programming. And we're open to feedback about our programming. So we would appreciate it if you take a minute to fill out the form that we'll be placing in the chat. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Janet and Mona Jean. Everyone have a really great day.
Bye, everybody. See you.